Question of the day. Saw this question on Twitter and I was like, oh yeah, I gotta do a video about this. Who is your favorite wrestler of all time? Let me tell you something. For me, it was Edge and Kurt Angle. Edge, number one, Kurt Angle at number two. That's how it was pretty much my whole life, but it's recently it has switched. I got Kurt Angle at number one, Edge at number two. Um, and here's why. When I first started getting like deeply interested in wrestling, Edge was the guy. Well, let me change that. John Cena was the guy. He was the king of the mountain. He was the world champion, right? I hated John Cena. I'm a wrestler. I'm a wrestling fan who loved the heels. I'm a heel guy. Um, so and don't get me wrong, I remember JBL as world champion. I loved it. But I got deeply, deeply, deeply involved in wrestling when Edge was coming into his own. He was Money in the Bank winner. And when he cashed that in on John Cena, oh my gosh. I couldn't buy the pay-per-views, but I would always, make sure I watched the Raw the following Monday. And they showed that clip of Edge cashing in the Money in the Bank. And oh my gosh, man. I was so hyped because I was like, he was just so good, man. I loved his spear. I loved his moveset. He had Lita by his side. He's the king of the ladder matches. And then he was just a perfect bad guy. He was arrogant. He was a jerk. But he also let everybody know that, hey, I got the sexiest woman on the roster. The situation with him and Matt Hardy. I loved everything about Edge from 2006 all the way up until his retirement. 2011 was 2011, 20, I think it was 2011. Edge was my favorite wrestler. It was Edge. It was Edge and then everybody else. Kurt Angle. I'll never forget watching SmackDown. They were having a battle royal to determine the new World Heavyweight Champion. I think Batista had to vacate the title because he got hurt, right? And at the time, when you was on SmackDown, you was on SmackDown. When you was on Raw, you was on Raw. That's how it was, right? I'll never forget. Everybody's in the ring. Rey Mysterio, JBL, Mark Henry. I'm thinking JBL. I'm like, okay, JBL about to get the world title back. Either JBL, Mark Henry, or Rey Mysterio, right? Out walks Kurt Angle, and I was like, holy freaking crap. I went crazy. It was a Friday night. I was like, oh my God, Kurt Angle about to win the world title. Kurt Angle about to win the world title. He went and put on probably the greatest battle royal ever. And I was like, this guy's great. Kurt Angle was such a great world champion. And now that I'm older and I love wrestling even more, I'm going back, doing all the research, studying wrestling from the 80s, the 90s, the early to mid 2000s up until now, going back on YouTube and seeing Kurt Angle from 99, 2000 to 2006. He was hilarious. The promos, the milk truck. He had a great sense of humor, especially when he turned heel. But not only that, you couldn't find a better wrestler than Kurt Angle. He put on great match after great match. I mean, matches with the Big Show, Triple H, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Shawn Michaels. I mean, he could have a good match with anybody. So, just doing my research and going back to just seeing his matches, Kurt Angle to me is the greatest wrestler of all time. And I'm looking at some of his matches when he was in TNA, and holy crap, Kurt Angle was a beast, man, a beast. So yeah, I for me, it's definitely Kurt Angle. It's most definitely Kurt Angle. My favorite wrestler of all time, Edge. Honorable mentions, this might shock y'all. A lot of y'all, again, I love the heels. So I love JBL's long run as world champion. I loved it. Oh, he was so freaking good. If y'all don't remember JBL as the world champion, go back and look at the promos, the matches. He was a cheater. He was just great. Triple H, Ric Flair, And also keep in mind your favorite. Just because somebody's your favorite wrestler doesn't mean that they're the greatest wrestler of all time. So let's be clear. I think arguably who most people won't argue with the greatest wrestler in ring wrestler of all time as far as being a world champion and in ring worker. I still think Kurt Angle's up there, but you probably got to get that to Ric Flair. But he wasn't my favorite. But anyways, I like Ric Flair. I love Triple H, Randy Orton. Um, a lot of guys. I would say my number three person actually would probably be Christian. I thought Christian was so underrated. He was underused. I'm so glad he went to TNA and became a world champion. Um, but yeah, I would say my favorite wrestler of all time, Kurt Angle, Edge, Christian. Like I said, JBL, Triple H, Ric Flair, Randy Orton. I was a big fan of Mark Henry. I'm loving Roman Reigns right now. But I just think, yeah, right now, Kurt Angle for me. Let's look at some of these comments to see who other people said. Okay, this person's all over the place. Somebody said it's a tie between Sting and Mr. Perfect. Okay, okay. Somebody said all time men it's Kurt Angle's. All time women it's Bailey. Ooh, we putting Bailey over Lita and Trish Stratus. Can't do that. We putting Bailey over Charlotte Flair. Can't do that. Can't do that. That's my opinion though. Somebody said Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Undertaker. Oh, how can I forget the Undertaker? Undertaker's definitely on the list. Yeah. Hulk Hogan. The British Bulldog. Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Um, yeah, man. I mean, you can go so many different directions, but a lot of people seem to agree with me. Here we go. Kurt Angle. Um, Somebody else said Kurt Angle, Bruno Sammartino. Um, yeah, man. Y'all let me know who's your favorite wrestler of all time. This is. Oh man, you can go so many different directions with this.